was the incident at your school? Story 1. In class, someone asks me, "Did you hear about the bombs going off in school today?" No, moron. There aren't bombs going off in our school. As I say this, over the intercom we hear, "Please evacuate the school immediately and avoid all trash cans during your exit." Some seniors had put dry ice bombs in the big metal trash cans. We come out to police, fire trucks, and bomb squads pulling up. One bomb goes off and the trash can shoots 20 feet in air. No one was injured. The seniors didn't get to participate in graduation. Story 2. Kid kept crapping in his hand and writing messages on the bathroom wall with it. You'd be in class and hear, "The North Corridor bathroom on the second floor is now off limits." And you knew at it. Yes, your school had one too. Yes, you gave him a nickname. Yes, it may be a sign of abuse. Story 3. Either the time a cop shot a man with a gun as a bunch of students watched, or the time some moron spray-painted, "There is a bomb in the gym," on the outside wall. Bomb threat jokes were all the rage. Story 4. We had a chicken pen at our school. Big fence around it, many chickens. We come to school one morning, and all the chickens have been beheaded as well as a couple birds which have been stoned to death. Story 5. In grade 8, my buddy Vinny brought a pregnant rat to school, and it spawned a bunch of rat babies in his locker. There were rats everywhere that year. Story 6. Easter egg hunt. In 1998. I think 5 people were injured. One had to be taken by helicopter to the hospital. I was never really sure of the specifics, but apparently some of the parents were trying to cheat and find eggs for their kids, instead of letting the kids do it themselves. This led to arguments and things got out of hand. Fortunately, no one died. And the school didn't ban Easter egg hunts. It just banned parents from it. Story 7. The mentally disabled kid went into an absolute rampage in lesson over someone sitting in his seat, and the teacher had to get everyone out of the room and lock him in there whilst support staff were called to come get him. Unfortunately, it was a science lesson and he had lots of expensive stuff to throw around whilst he was in there. Thousands of pounds worth of damage. Story 8. In elementary school. The incident was when this kid named Alex stuffed paper towels into a soap dispenser and lit it on fire in the bathroom. The whole school was evacuated and Major was to follow. In middle school. The incident was a well-liked kid that most of us thought had it all, decided to commit suicide. It was very devastating to so many of us in the school and really brought home how you never really know what struggles the kid next to you is going through. In high school. The incident was that a semi-popular kid was regularly getting it on with a teacher. It wasn't well known but was whispered about. A friend of my brother's leveraged this to his advantage, telling the teacher on the day of the final exam, "I think I got an A in this class, because I know about you and my friend, and I don't think you want anyone else to know." He got the A. Story 9. 2 of my high school teachers told me these 2 stories. My English teacher told me that some years before I was in her class, she had this one kid who was tall and kind of big, but he was quiet and never caused any trouble and did his work for the most part. Well, one day he comes in with his hand wrapped in bandages, and when asked what happened, he gave a non-committal answer. Flash forward a couple of weeks, and the kid hasn't been in class for about 2 weeks, and she asked the class where he is. All the kids get quiet, and one kid pipes up, "He was arrested for beating and raping a girl. He's going to juvie." My science teacher, Mr. B, told me this. He had a student, a girl, who was a hard worker and had a good attitude and was well behaved, but within the span of a few weeks her grades began to drop and she began to act out, and one day she blew up at another student, so Mr. B took her outside and asked her that before he wrote her up. Is there anything going on that caused the outburst? Because she was a good student and was smart and she just broke down and told him that there was a dead body under her bed. Come to find out her mom had killed her, the mom's boyfriend, and hid him under the girl's bed, and she had been sleeping with a dead body in her room for a couple of weeks. Edit. I tried to grammar. Not my forte. Also, in regards to the second story, I'm unsure how long the body was under the girl's bed. I was told these stories 6 or 7 years ago. Story 10. Someone set Mickey Mouse's tail on fire at Disneyland during a senior trip back in the 80s and got the school banned for like 20 years. My senior was the first time we were able to go back for grad night. Story. 11 kid that sat behind me in math class brought a gun to school. Didn't shoot anybody, not really sure if he intended to, but got caught after bragging about it. Story 12. There were so many. The guy who released 3,500 crickets as a senior prank. The time the principal punched a kid on the bus. The band director that was in a lesbian love triangle with 2 students. The time the superintendent was being investigated for embezzling money, and the school records building mysteriously burned down. Edit. Okay, since everyone is asking for more details, I'll share some. This all happened quite a while ago, so I don't remember a ton of details, but I'll share what I do remember. The principal got called to break up a fight on the school bus. An older high school kid, 16 or 17 I think, was picking on a middle school kid. He refused to stop when the principal told him to, and refused to get off the bus. The principal went to pull him out of his seat and him off the bus, and the kid sucker punched the principal. The principal punched him back. Neither one was seriously hurt, the student got suspended, and the principal got an official reprimand, I think. My freshman year in marching band, there was a rumor going around that two of the senior girls were in a lesbian relationship. Later that year, it turned out to be much weirder. It was found out, I don't remember how, that they were. But they were both also sleeping with the female band director too. It didn't really get out in public, but it was an open secret in the school. Not just among the kids, but among other teachers and the administration. Because they were both 18, the band director wasn't arrested or anything, but she did leave the school and take another job somewhere else in the middle of the school year. The superintendent one was a real doozy. Our superintendent was from a local political family. He was superintendent. His wife was on the school board. His dad, or father-in-law, was a county commissioner. His daughter was one of the teachers at the school. Our school had been having financial difficulties, and as part of trying to solve them, there was an audit that turned up like $500,000 missing from the school treasury. Evidence pointed towards the superintendent. Shortly after this came out, there was a fire in the school administration offices that destroyed a bunch of financial records. It was investigated as arson, but nothing was ever proven. Rumor was the fire chief was paid off, and the guy, his wife, and his daughter all resigned and moved away. Story 13. We had 3 bomb threats my freshman year. First one was some angsty, and the last 2 were just because we got out of class all day with the first. Specifically, that first one was legendary. The school had no plans or preparation for this event, so we all milled around the athletic field for 6 fucking hours. Edit. School was in southern Maine. Story 14. Sexting ring of 120 girls' pictures being passed around all the guys at school. Happened twice. 0 arrests as it was a rich private school and parents got involved. Also the teacher making people answer weird questions their classmates asked. Or the time a kid showed up in such a drugged-up state that he passed out in class. Had to be rushed to the hospital, was on an IV drip for a while, and tested positive for 7 out of the 8 substances tested for. Didn't get suspended or kicked out. He was allowed to take his exams early and finish up about a month before everyone else. Story 15. We had a mock car crash, where the local fire department and other emergency services simulated what happened at a car crash to drive home the point of driving sober, etc., after prom and whatnot. We had the whole school watching, over 1,000 kids. One of the kids in my grade, early in the morning, took it in a bag and smeared it all over the windshield of the car. Later that day, when they unveiled the car from under a tarp, it was everywhere, and the whole crowd broke out into laughter. Story 16. There were a few, but I think the worst one was when the senior class prank, vandalism, was to put weed grass killer on the football field to create a giant dong. It could be seen on Google Earth for years. Edit. It wasn't the class I was in, just that it was a senior class. Story 17. A teacher got a student pregnant. He only had to change schools though because she was 16 already. Some students mixed the wrong chemicals in chemistry, and the whole building couldn't be entered for a week. Story 18. I went to a Catholic high school that considered itself fairly progressive. To their credit, they were progressive compared to most other Catholic schools. We had ed, we studied world religions instead of just Christianity, they supported the LGBTQ community, and whatnot. One of the big things was having a dress code rather than a uniform. We were allowed to have flexibility with what we wore. The trade-off was a ruthless policing of said policy. Overall, it was a fair trade. One of the mandates was a girl's skirt could not be more than 4 inches above the top of her knee. One day, a beloved teacher approached the super bitchy popular girl and informed her that her skirt was by leaps and bounds too short and she will have to serve detention. Our detentions were just 30 minutes after school and you could do homework. However, she felt slighted and denied it, despite one of her butt cheeks basically hanging out. The teacher asserted he was not mistaken and she needs to serve her punishment. She became indignant and began screaming. Finally, out of frustration, the teacher took out a ruler and placed it against her thigh to prove his point. She sued the school for sexual harassment by a teacher along with sexual assault. The school, not wanting any negative press, immediately fired him, hoping it would cause the lawsuit to be dropped. It was not. Here is the kicker: the school actually won. But at this point, the teacher had been fired for many months and found a new job. So sad to see a beloved faculty member get taken down by a bitchy girl who didn't want a 30-minute detention. After that, the school approached a faculty member who was very publicly out of the closet, and without being too offensive would fall under the flaming category. This man was from that day forward ruthless with skirt checks and would not only do exactly what the previous teacher did with the ruler, but give serious attitude to any girl who dared try to debate him on the topic, knowing that he was basically bulletproof. Story 19. The Catch-22 Hate Crime. Kid 1 got the beat out of him in a fight that he picked. His rich parents sued the other kid in the school, citing that it was a hate crime because Kid 1 was gay. Well, it all came out that mom and stepdad were suing mostly because the alimony settlement from mom's first marriage was drying up. We're talking at least $5 million. They figured going the hate crime route just about guaranteed a big payout from the school district. It also came out that Kid 1's father was a multimillionaire and an extreme homophobe, so Kid either had to admit to being gay and be disowned by his millionaire father, no chance at the inheritance, or throw his mother under the bus and proclaim his heterosexuality. My junior year of high school was like a reality TV show. Story 20. This blonde girl had two guys crushing on her. She played them off against each other for all they were worth, reveling in the attention. They really disliked each other, so she encouraged them to fight, shirtless at her suggestion. One guy ended up badly beating the other. He broke his nose, fractured his cheekbone, and cracked a rib. The guy on the ground was yelling for help. People had to pull him away from the guy before he killed him. Story 21. Senior prank 2009. Someone's put some fish fillets up in the ceiling of the administration building. Except they did it before Christmas break instead of summer, so it would rot for a week, and then all the school staff would smell it when they got back. It took them months to figure it out since no one came forward to claim their deed. All the while, about a third of the entire school student body has been suffering and breathing this dead fish aroma since the administration building is half offices, half arts department and classrooms. It was terrible, and the stench still haunts me. Senior pranks aren't even a thing at our school, LMAO. Story 22. My junior year of high school, some girl got in a fight with another girl over a boy. They fought in the cafeteria, and their friends joined, and it quickly turned into a riot. Police came, one of the girls got tasered, and parents were called. The kicker is all of the parents then went across the street to the gas station and started fighting before being arrested. Story 23. Some of these are pretty tame compared to what I've been reading, but here we go. Senior prank 2009. 4 boys, all teachers' kids, cut down all the trees next to the high school. They didn't cut them all the way down, though. They pretty much just cut them in half. Cameras caught everything. They ended up being arrested, suspended, and unable to participate in graduation. A girl got arrested in the middle of my senior history class for selling weed. Apparently, she dealt out of the handicap stall in one of the girls' bathrooms and hid her stash in the ceiling tiles. 2 pregnant girls, both probably around 7-8 months along at that point, found out they had the same baby daddy and duked it out in the hallway during passing period. My freshman year, a coach got a student pregnant. He was fired. My senior year, he was hired back because our football team needed him. Edit. Not sure how I forgot this one. A guy in my class had severe anger issues. We were pretty sure he was beating his girlfriend. Anyway, she broke up with him. Used to see him crying in class and in the hallways a lot. But no issues other than that to my knowledge. Then she got a new boyfriend, one of his close football buddies. He lost his. Upon finding out, he immediately went to the class they were both in and tried to open the door, only to find that it was locked. So he punched through the security glass. His hand was cut up, but he still managed to open the door. Due to the quick thinking of the teacher and his apparent sudden realization that he had royally fucked up, he stopped his rage, and the administrators and police officers were there before he could hurt anyone. We still aren't really sure what his intentions were, but he was suspended and had to do court-mandated anger management classes. Story 24. High school teacher started to become obsessed with one of my friends. He started calling her at all hours of the night, completely drunk, asking her to come over, etc. Eventually, she had to call the police. Fast forward a couple days later, 3 to 4 police officers roll up on this teacher during one of his classes and arrest him in front of everyone. He was never seen again. Story 25. We had two big ones. 1. A black kid running for senior class president claimed he received a bunch of racist text messages from someone telling him to drop out, including ones calling him the N-word. This was a predominantly white school. After a series of police investigations, news reports on local TV stations about the incident, and at least 5 different school assemblies on why racism is wrong, we found out over the summer that the kid sent the text to himself. 2. The foreign languages taught at the school were Spanish, German, French, and Italian. We had exchange programs for every language except Spanish, and no one really knew why. Any teacher we asked would either claim ignorance of the reason or make up some excuse about financial constraints. Senior year, a bunch of us found out from a librarian that the year before our freshman year, some senior knocked up one of the Spanish girls part of the exchange program, and it was this whole scandal that basically ruined the school's reputation and prevented us from having any exchange program in Spain. Story 26. The super popular elementary school science teacher getting arrested for child pornography. Everyone loved him, and also I'm pretty sure his daughter was going to that school at the time. Story 27. A disabled kid named Jonathan attacked one of our lunch ladies with a spork because the cafeteria was out of pizza. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the gold, stranger. Story 28. Someone wrote on a bathroom wall, "School go boom, on, date." They evacuated the school, had the police show up, searched everywhere for bombs, didn't find and nothing blew up. Edited for you fucking memolords. Story 29. The football and track coach got impaled by a pole at the stadium as he turned around to say goodbye to a student while he was on his bike. That was 5 years ago. About 20, I believe. A janitor who didn't have all the background checks killed and raped a girl a few hours school was out. Some event was going on, I believe. Edit. Link for the coach, http://huff us entry for the janitor killing the girl, http articles, latums, com 2000 AOZ 31 News MN 289, edit, Riotous. So this blew up a bit. Here's some side info and said she was obviously down about it. That breaks my heart. The coach? I was on his football team that final year. We didn't win a single that season. My dad forced me to do football, and Coach Adams could tell I was one of his kids, so he didn't care I never tried. He was the most nicest man from sports I ever met. I remember walking home, and he rode past me on his bike saying, "Have a good night. Insert my last name." I also remember having to use his phone, because my dad took away my phone, and he was more than happy to help me out. It sounds like I knew him really well, and despite him also knowing my older sister quite well. I didn't know, not at all. I was just another kid on the team to him, but that didn't stop him from being super cool. The last time I saw him in person was turning in my gear in the morning. I remember marching to his class, all proud, and he told me, "If you decide you actually want to do this again, you gotta get tougher." And he said it in a way that he was being cool about it, yet honest. I remember saying sure thing, signing my name on the thing for the gear, and getting the out of there. The last time, I sent him a message to get his media class for the second semester because I hated Avid. He told me to go talk to him, and I never did. I wish I did. Then I could have actually been cool to him. I remember going to school and walking into first period. Seeing my science teacher, who didn't know him, crying. I saw 2 other fellow athletes on the team, also crying. I remember thinking, should I be crying? I felt bad because I didn't. Anyways, if you go into the yearbook for 2012-2013 and see his freshman team in the photo next to him. If you see number 65, well, that's me. Like I said, I didn't even know him like that. I was forced to be on his team, and I'm glad in the end I got to see his personality for myself. Some coaches are actually awesome. Story 30. There was a riot. A bunch of kids painted loads of graffiti on the wall of the main building insulting the headmaster and various other teachers, so the school canceled our graduation party. Consequently, once everyone's exams were finished, half the year, about 100 people, went to various pubs and got drunk. Then some rabble-rousing took place and we all convened on the school to demand our party back. Things were thrown, windows were broken, the gates were shut, the police arrived, it made the newspapers, etc. You can go back over our school's exam statistics and see the percentage of pupils who got good grades in their A-levels, English high school leaving exams. If you scan down the years, there's one very noticeable outlier. We were a bunch of little shits and that was the culmination. Good times. Story 31. There were so many incidents in my school that it became commonplace. Kid crashed a Lambo into the entrance, science lab burned down, ceiling collapsed, and many, many more. Story 32. I'm a teacher and currently trying to break down a rubber ducky black market ring. I teach high school. I have high schoolers about to graduate and go into college. The same students are buying, selling, and trading rubber ducks. Story 33. A guy had his penis out in the track team photo in the yearbook. It's debatable, but apparently true. It's a grainy B&W photo. Ironically, that guy just retired as a career officer in the Navy. He was apparently very well respected. Story 34. Race riots in the early eras between Native Americans and Latinos. Fights broke out all over the school, students throwing soda bottles and food from the top of the quad to students down below, about a 30 FT drop. Students had to be taken to the hospital with injuries. Story 35. Towards the end of the year, while everyone was at lunch, one special ed kid took another special ed kid, with less cognitive function, into the faculty lounge and sexually and physically abused her. She had bruises and bite marks, and apparently similar things have happened to her before at past schools, and the guy had committed similar acts too. Instead of actually doing anything about it, his parents, or maybe the police, just kept moving him from school to school. It was really sad, and early on this year, when word got out about what happened and the news started reporting on it, about half the school decided to wear the girl's favorite colors one day and have a protest, demanding justice for her or something. School got canceled that day. I haven't heard anything about the incident since, but that's the weirdest thing that's happened to me so far. Story 36. Newsworthy. Our robotics coach, FRC, is currently under investigation for embezzling over $30,000. Update. Verdict is in, complicit but not guilty. It was another exec, our PTA liaison. Coach just signed the paperwork and ignored the problem. Final number is $40,000, but some of that is from PTSA, not solely robotics. Still not sharing team number, though. Funny. Someone got it from their Secret Santa. Both were dudes. This was a party during lunch, at school, with the whole class in attendance. No adult supervision. Long story short, it turned into a free-for-all game of dodgeball until it got stuck behind a TV mounted on one of the walls. And there it sat, for 2 years, until a teacher found it. During an open house for incoming freshmen. Story 37. Someone was writing messages on the walls of the boys' bathrooms in Human. This went on for months because they were trying to figure out who had been excused from class each time this happened. But that didn't work because it turned out it was 2 people alternating smearing duties so the other one would have an alibi. Story 38. One kid in my school took acid before anthropology. About halfway through class, he got up, put on the bright vest teachers are supposed to wear during fire drills, and went into the hall to direct traffic. Halls were empty. Story 39. I remember in like year 8, all the guys in middle school got brought together in one room to discuss the fact someone had smeared all over the bathroom walls. That was fun. Story 40. Friend and co-captain of the soccer team in high school brutally murdered his parents. His mom was an English teacher at the school. I had her class. Edit. To answer some questions and link to the incident. Never was able to talk to Larry after the incident, but the consensus in the school among the students was, we would have still trusted him. Basically, sure, I'll sit in a room with him even though he has a knife. He was a good person. I've had people question me about the fact that I don't blame him. He murdered 2 people. But there was much more that we saw of Larry since we spent so much time with him 9 hours a day between school and sports. And none of us, really, knew what went on behind closed doors. Sheer disbelief when it came out that he did it. The police knew right away. Community was a bit concerned that the police did nothing to step up patrols. Here is a story about the incident. https www.thoughtco.com. Larry Swartz, The Sudden Fury Murders 972246. I have not read through it. I can't find the one I have linked to in the past, which is a fairly accurate description of what happened. I cannot attest to this story being 100% accurate, as I have posted other links that did not have the details exactly correct. I welcome any questions. What is not stated in many articles but was knowledge, Among those of us who knew Larry was the reason. He refused to leave his sister Annie in the home with his parents. He was moving out at 18. He did it to protect his sister. Do I have any citation? No. Here is a story about his death. HTTP, our Sun articles. Baltimore Sun. Com, 2005, 0104, News, 0501 042041, Swartz. Lawyer, Evening Sun. It does not go into detail, from what I know talking with friends after his death. After his release, he moved in with a family short-term. HTP, WW, Exojane. Com, it happened to me, Larry Swartz. Murderer adopted. He then worked his way to Florida where he was homeless for a while, met a group of friends while homeless. He finally moved on to a more normal life, job and such. Larry married and had a child. He was happy. He had found a family. He was liked in his community and very active in helping the homeless population. Died at 38 of a heart attack. His past was not known by his community. They were in shock when they found out about what he did. Again, sheer disbelief. There is a lot of conflicting information out there. Heck, one story say he died at 37, the other 38. I'm by no means saying I am an expert, but I lived it, so much of the information is lost to time. Another story, this guy worked for me. HTP Bachachi, FB Independent. Com, Richmond man, found guilty of killing ex-wife P66671, HTM. Edit 2. Found and linked the story about the family that adopted him after release. Story 41, Elementary School. Whoever shit in the urinal. Apparently not uncommon. Middle school. A kid thought it was funny to knock golf off the tee in PE as someone went into their back swing. After successfully fucking with almost everyone in class, the kid then took a 9-iron to the orbital bone when he did it too late. High school. Our football coach had with at least 3 members of the cheerleading squad, although this didn't get out until after he left. So I guess that time someone hijacked the construction equipment and did donuts on the main lawn. Story 42. We had many. Dog hammer fight in my first week. Rush day. 1 day per year the kids in YR7 would just get random beats. A couple of stabbings, our shower year. Kid locked the woodwork teacher in the toilets. Woodwork teacher kicked the door off its hinges and set about the kid the very same way. Someone stole all the computers from the computer room. Kid was stripped and all his clothes and belongings were doused in lighter fluid and burned. Head teacher left for lunch one day and never came back. Our only person making the timetables was the admin business teacher. Died of a heart attack during a class. Starting the following year, no classes were organized for 2 months. Graduation year, A2, to boot. Still received weekly notices about attendance during that period. History teacher got pregnant by another teacher. Conception apparently on site. They weren't in a relationship. Someone started a rumor that she was raped, and he was also a pedophile. He had to leave the school. Superhead, brought in to get us shipshape, known for taking no and turning schools around, made her quit her entire decades-long career. Couldn't hire new teachers. Woodworking depth was abandoned after previous incident. Kid trapped another kid in there with a mind to reenact some hostel and tried to slice his femoral artery with a sharpened file. Off the top of my head. Story 43. Our assistant principal was kind of a... To try and humiliate him, we bought AA and inscribed it with our school mascot, and that if found, please return to Mr. Douche. We then slipped it into the ice machine while in line for lunch. The cacophony was deafening when it was found. A lunchroom worker pulled it out with tongs and held it up and away from her, almost like she was displaying it for all of us to see. A coach who was watching the lunchroom saw the writing, and upon further investigation he busted up and turned red. Quite the time. He never caught one of us, so Mr. T from Bixby, okay, you! Story 44. We'll probably get buried, but a Spanish teacher at my high school videotaped students when they did oral Spanish speaking exams and photoshopped their faces from the videos onto blow-up dolls to sell on the internet. Everyone who had him as a teacher was contacted by the FBI and told their faces were used for child pornography. That was a weird year. Story 45. A girl stopped running in the middle of PE and pulled her tampon out and threw it on the ground. She also refused to pick it up and teachers had to grab it. She was already the weird girl, but God did that make it worse. Story 46. A student in my high school put up straight pride posters. It was a mess. The Washington Times even wrote an article on it. Edit. Just Google straight pride. You'll find it. Story 47. Man, we had so many. The Army came to talk about career opportunities in the military and brought a tank to show us. When we all went outside to see it, someone had spray-painted Metallica along the side of it. No one was caught. The police came to teach us about drugs and had several drugs in these glass sort of tablet things. 2 of the 5 were stolen. The school was put on lockdown and nobody found them. And they tried. There were dogs, and all the lockers were searched. Someone put LSD in a teacher's coffee. She naturally was hysterical and never came back to school. Nobody was caught. A dude found a head and a hand in a cemetery and kept it in his locker at school. It was so nasty and decayed. He was obviously suspended. The police came and rounded up some black students and told them they were going to take them for pizza as a community outreach thingy, but instead put them in a lineup at the police station. That wasn't funny and was a big headline in the news. There are many more, but these are the worst by far. Story 48. Way too many to think of just one, so here are a few favorites. My science teacher beating a student with a chair, yes, a chair, out of frustration. My music teacher dropping acid with a group of students during a field day and fucking a 16-year-old on the roof of the school, when faculty ended up finding a hit list that the anime kids accidentally left on their lunch table. A classmate accidentally killing themselves. The principal and the drama teacher caught fucking in the main office after school hours. It was one of those see-through plexiglass offices. A janitor found them. Both were married. Last I heard was they each ditched their spouses and got together. It was well known that a certain history teacher would proposition female students for sexual favors in exchange for better grades. I never had him, so I guess I was lucky. I have a few friends that were constantly pestered for nudes, and a mutual friend who actually ended up having an affair with him the summer going into her senior year. Story 49. Sophomore year. This tall, really strung-out kid who I can best describe as a hybrid between a glam rocker and an emo kid was accused of getting into the locked bathrooms by the trophy case and finger painting within said bathroom. Rumors also spread that he got the trophy case. People took pictures on their phones. Junior year. We kept having brush fires due to Florida being in a perpetual drought. People claimed they found used condoms and chocolate sauce on the baseball diamond, which was one of the evacuation areas. There was also the gang of freshman girls who were lighting trash cans on fire with those sparkler birthday candles, causing mass hysteria and interrupting one of my classes when they lit up one of the trash cans in our hallway. Finally, there was the bomb threat where a crane got hit by a school bus in front of at least 1,000 students while we were evacuating. The video spread like wildfire, and the bomb threat was a senior prank. Story 50. Guy calls black kids the N-word. People, both black and white, showed up at his house, beat him up, then destroyed his beekeeping equipment. I'm honestly glad it happened. He had it coming for a long time. Poor bees. Though I hope they found a new home. Edit. This is the last straw in a series of events, from what I understand. Story 51 reposted from another thread. There's a few other gems, but I'll stick with one for now. There was a story going around of the lollipop vandal, where, due to a school program holiday event, the teachers were handing out lollipops, the awesome sour blow pops, to their students. This mysterious criminal flew into a blind rage when he didn't receive his lollipop and kicked in a glass window up at the base of the theater building. He then fled the scene and is still at large. It was all over the school bulletin. In reality, I was sarcastically complaining and pretending to throw a mini tantrum, leaned back into the window with my foot out to lean against it, and it shattered. To be fair, it was thick glass, and I was a big boy, and it sounded like a gunshot right when everyone was getting out for lunch. I had a friend me away from the scene, and then ran away until I realized I had glass in my foot and turned myself in to avoid further injury by walking home. Story 52. There was a fight my freshman year where a kid grabbed the one weird kid that you would think is about to shoot the school up and put his head through the glass trophy case. 2 years later, that kid got arrested for plotting to shoot up the graduation and even had an assault rifle with a list of names. My brother made the list. He's a... Story 53. One of our teachers went on long-term sick after having a mental breakdown. The last straw that supposedly pushed her over the edge was someone sneaked into the classroom during break and took a dump right near this teacher's desk.